Thank you, thank you everybody for joining. So today I want to talk about the Heart Sutra again. Maybe now you can hear me a little bit better. Let me share the screen. Let me read the first part in Japanese. Kanji zai Bosatsu gyojin hanya haramita ji shoken goun kaiku do issai kuyaku. That's the part that I already explained. When the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara practiced deep Prajna Paramita. So in my interpretation that would be a complete letting go. Completely letting go, which also means radical acceptance of things as they are. When Avalokiteshvara practiced this Prajna Paramita, he or she saw clearly that the 5 Skandhas, that is form, matter, and our senses and everything that we perceive through the senses and the concepts that we grasp and our reaction to that which we grasp and the whole world, the whole story that we construct out of that. These 5 skandhas are all empty. And when he or she realized that, was liberated from suffering. And now starts a new part, which is maybe the most famous part of the whole sutra. Shalishi is the name of Shariputra. And he doesn't talk in this sutra, but he's the one to whom the sutra is addressed. And Shariputra, among the disciples of Shakyamuni, was the one who had the most wisdom. He was the wisest of all. And in the old sutras, sometimes he speaks for the Buddha. For sometimes when the Buddha gave a speech, in between, in the middle of the sutra, he becomes tired. And then he asks Shariputra, maybe you can continue for me. And Shariputra was so wise that he could continue for Shakyamuni. So basically he knew all the stuff that his teacher Shakyamuni knew. But here in the Heart Sutra, he's the one who has to listen to Avalokiteshvara. And I already explained in the first couple of classes in which we talked about the Heart Sutra that Avalokiteshvara, at the end of the day, it's you. It's about you. So now the question is, but then who's Shariputra? Who's Shariputra? And the answer, again, it's you. It's that part of you that still wants to understand. I want to understand Buddhism. And you think that your understanding of Buddhism will get you out of suffering. So Shariputra also here represents the older style of Buddhism, which means today's Theravada Buddhism, or sometimes the Mahayana Buddhists called it Hinayana, the small vehicle. So Shariputra represents those for whom Buddhism is all about solving my problem. I want to understand Buddhism so that I can solve my problem. And Avalokiteshvara is the one who understands it's not about me. And it's not about intellectual understanding. And we play both roles. So we have to be Avalokiteshvara, but we also have this Shariputra part in us. But what about me? What about my problem? I still don't understand. Please explain. I want to understand better. And we grasp for another book, hoping that finally finally we'll get it. So Shariputra also is you. It's not some very wise Buddhist disciple. Both Avalokiteshvara and Shariputra represent two parts of yourself. Maybe Xuanzang, you can explain and then I try to go a little further.
我们今天讲心经，老师刚刚其实把前面我们讲的内容大概其实做了一个总结，就是前面我们讲了，观自在菩萨行深般若波罗蜜多时，照见五蕴皆空，度一切苦厄。上一次其实我们前面主要讲的就是我们要完全的放手，然后上一次上节课重点讲的五蕴，就是它有几个不同的，呃。就是几个不同的形式，一个是受想行识，其实它中文可能不大好翻译，英文其实就是它的外面的一个表象，一个形式，还有它这具体是什么事情，什么内容，还有一个就是你的感觉，还有概念，最后是你最后表现出来的一个行为，其实就是这五蕴。然后后面呢，我们后面讲了，其实应该是整个心经最有名的一句话，就是舍利子，色不异空，空不异色，就是后面色即是空，空即是色。那老师说，那个舍利子他其实没有讲，就是在这篇经文当中没有讲，但其实舍利子，他是佛的他是释迦牟尼的一个弟子。应该是他最聪明的一个、最有智慧的一个弟子。有的时候，佛陀他累的想要休息的时候呢，也会委托他来替他讲学。然后其实前面，也就是其实老师刚刚我们上节课提到的五蕴，其实他不管是哪一个，它最终其实都是空的，它没有具体的一个什么含义。然后前面我们开篇其实就讲了，观自在菩萨嘛，这个所谓的观自在菩萨，菩萨其实老师前面其实菩萨就是自己。那这里面其实它有，因为佛教它也在不断的传播嘛，它有老的一个就是形式，还有现在的各种不同的形式。那其实我们前面就是讲的，其实归根到底，这个菩萨是你自己，但同时呢。我们有的时候会提出一些问题来，其实解决问题，我们一直在寻找这个菩萨，但是其实就好像我们在寻找问题，然后最后其实我们能够明白的是我们解决自己的问题，但是与此同时呢，就好像是有两个不一样的存在一样，我们既要明白你其实就是我们最终要寻找的那个菩萨，解决问题的只有自己，但同时，其实这个世界呢，又不是关乎于你的，你好像和这个世界又不是，你又不是世界的主角，好像又不是关乎于你的，所以我们是希望能到最后可以平衡这两种，能够真正的明白这两种当中的奥秘，然后大概其是这个意思啊。老师现在可能从后面再分析一部分。
Thank you. Thank you. Let's return to the text. So, Avalokiteshvara addresses Shariputra. Shali Shiki fu I ku fu I shiki. Shiki sokuze ku sokuze shiki. Ju so gyo shiki. Yaku bunyo ze. That's maybe the most famous part of the Hanya Shingyo. Shiki means form existence. Ku is emptiness. So form is no different from emptiness. There's no difference between emptiness and form. And then maybe to emphasize that even more, form is exactly emptiness. Emptiness is nothing but form. So form is emptiness, emptiness is form. That's very famous. And that's not only true for form. Form is the first of the 5 skandhas. but it's also true for the other four. So, ju, so, gyo, shiki, yakubu, nyo, ze means the same is true for perception, grasping concepts, reacting to those, and to constructing the whole conscious world. So basically, the first half of this, form is emptiness, is just a repetition. That was already said in the second line. But there's also the flip side of the coin, which means emptiness also is form. And that is something that maybe you don't have in this way in the older schools of Buddhism. The whole of everything in Buddhism says everything is emptiness. So emptiness is a basic teaching that you find everywhere. But I think it's unique to Mahayana Buddhism to say, but also emptiness appears as form. Emptiness appears as ourselves. We are a manifestation of emptiness. Not only are you empty and you will eventually die, but this emptiness has now manifested as you. And when we say emptiness, usually we think it's something negative, impermanence. But I have the feeling that this emptiness in a way also represents Buddha nature. So form is emptiness, emptiness is form, could also be paraphrased as all beings have Buddha nature, and this Buddha nature appears now in the form of you, in the form of a dog or cat. Buddha nature appears everywhere. So emptiness, originally shunyata, in Mahayana Buddhism gets this positive spin. Emptiness in itself is Buddha nature. Impermanence is Buddha nature. And because that's a very important point, I will get back to that next time. I want to talk a little bit about next time, well, in 2 weeks. So next time we get back to Sawaki Roshi, but in 2 weeks I want to get back to that. There's this famous song about Zazen by Hakuin where he says, all living beings have Buddha nature. It's like ice and water. Ice basically is water, but ice comes in the form of ice. Therefore, we, being ice, being diluted people, don't realize that we are water at the same time. And you could say that form being emptiness, emptiness is form, is the same. Ice is water, water is ice. Form there represents the ice, and emptiness represents the water. They are one, but also they appear in different ways. But I want to get back to that point next time. Maybe today Schwanson can translate, and after that, if you have questions or things that you would like to share, please do so.
好的，讲的就是后面色，色即是空，空即是色，复想行识，亦复如是，就是这应该是最有名的一句了，就是它的外形，色即是空，空它的外形就是空的，然后空的也是它的外形，它其实说是这两个是一样的。然后空它只是一个外形，而前面说的色即是空呢，这个色它其实是五蕴之一，同时呢，它也代表了其他各个五蕴，因为它就是一个形式嘛。这只是一个概念。刚刚老师说，其实这些都是一个概念性上的。我们前面《心经》第2句其实已经提到过了。然后空呢，它也是一个形式而存在的。其实空应该说是，就是佛教或者是这种，它就是很多经文里面啊，一个最基础的一个教诲了，就是，特别是大乘佛教里面说的空，它其实就是代表的一个形式，然后就好像，其实这空也是代表，因为我们前面说观自在菩萨第1句就提到了嘛，其实这个空也指到了是你。 就是我们一般人认为提到空的时候，可能它是消极的。其实在这里面，它空也是一种佛性，它提到的含义也是它代表了一种佛性，就是这种空的，它空的这种模式和形式，其实也就是佛性所代表的，就好像可能是你，可能是他，也可能是猫和狗，佛性无处不在。大乘佛教里面，其实它指的空，指的是自己就是佛。那有一个特别有名的白隐禅师，下次老师会具体的讲啊。白隐禅师有一个特别有名的一句话，就是他把冰和水比喻成色和空，就是它的形式是空的。那我们其实冰和水它本质上都是一样的，但是是以不同的概念、不同的形式，不同的一个空的形式存在的。那我们就好像是冰的这种模式，我们可能没有意识到，其实自己是水，它是冰和水是一样的，但其实它也是不一样的。这个是白隐禅师的一个比喻，然后下次课老师可能还会具体讲，大家有问题的话可以提。
Thank you. So, thank you. So we still have time. If there's anything you would like to ask or share, you're welcome to do so. Paulo, please. And after that, Werner.
Hello, everybody. Thank
Hello.
you for having me this time here. I've watched a few videos and trying to catch up. Yeah, trying to follow you guys. I have a question on this two-line emptiness form is emptiness. I try to exercise this when I try to observe or just contemplate or not doing anything. But I still have difficulty in coming from my way to understand, to perceive. I know that my tact, my smell, my eyes, everything interpret something which is cultural, whatever. Amount is amount, amount is not amount is amount, kind of thing. But one thing is my abstractions, my understanding. And another thing, possibly it is what it is. Then when I interpret, okay, I say my understanding is empty, it's just, it will come and it will go. But the form that my understanding is, nevertheless, is still there, and possibly for more than one of us. Then the nothingness for me is difficult to realize. That's something that I can't still grasp. I know that for me it seems to be the opposite in some way. It's completeness. It's just, we are just completeness, and things are in different form just by chance now in this fraction of infinitude. But this fraction of infinitude will be per time, the forms will be different way, but it seems that it's completeness, not nothingness. So could you please enlighten me on this?
Well, if completeness sounds better to you, you could use the word. Like, probably nothingness or emptiness doesn't mean that nothing exists. It just means it's fluid. It now appears to have a certain form, but it's always in flux. Everything that we think is fixed, it's not fixed. And, well, as I said again and again, basically this world which we locate ourselves in right now is, May 27th? 2024 and I'm here in Osaka in Japan, but I construct that. But it doesn't mean that there's nothing. Obviously, there's this reality. All of you are experiencing a reality. To say it's empty doesn't mean that you don't experience anything. You experience something, but you construct it. But I said that emptiness, one metaphor would be water. And water is not something that doesn't exist. It's fluid. You can't grasp it. You can't take it into your hand. Basically, that's the point here. And if you want to call it completeness, well, you can call it completeness as well. You could call it being, for example. The philosophers might want to call it being. But for some reason, the Buddhists, especially Zen Buddhists, prefer words like nothingness, emptiness, because there's always the temptation to grasp it and make something out of it. For example, being or God, for example, in Christianity, it would be God, but we give God a name, we think about God as the Father, and already we start to quarrel about my God is not your God. So to avoid that, probably Buddhists prefer to say it's emptiness, because it's hard to quarrel about emptiness. My emptiness is not your emptiness. But if you call it completeness, you can start to quarrel. Your completeness is not as complete as mine. My completeness is more complete than yours.
I see. Yeah, okay. Makes sense. Thank you. I think it's that. Yeah, it's just about words. The problem. Our problem is language at the end of the day. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I will think about it.
Werner was also raising his hand. You need to unmute yourself. Today we can't hear you. You're still mute.
Now, can you hear me?
Now it's okay, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Once I was speaking with a Christian priest from Reutlingen, and he said, for him, emptiness is almost the same like God. Yeah? When you do not make a person out of God, then you also can say emptiness is God, because for the priest, I can understand him. Everything what we see, feel, hear, smell is a manifestation of God. Yeah. So where is the problem?
Yeah. That's what I try to say.
And my picture, or how you say metaphoric picture of emptiness and form is a balloon, an air balloon. Yeah, I say the outside of the balloon, this is the form, but the balloon is also empty, and emptiness is also outside. So I like to use this picture. Yeah.
Yes.
That's all what I want to say.
Thank you. Joseph is also raising his hand. Joseph, please.
I ask about the translation of the words, because you're using Thich Nhat Hanh's translation.
Yes.
Right? And in that, this is translated as this body itself is emptiness, and emptiness itself is this body. But then the other ones, like I've got one open here, where it's translated as the material world is emptiness, and emptiness itself is the material world. So I just wondered if you could say, like, as someone who can't read kanji, like, what are why that translation or not that one, or if there's a difference between the two, or yeah.
I don't know what the kanji actually means in Chinese, but in Japanese today it means color. But, well, things that have a color usually have a form. But the Indian word is rupa, and rupa probably means, well, the material world. Everything that exists, and not only, well, things that have a shape, but also, like, for example, sounds. Everything in this world, including this body. So Thich Nhat Hanh's translation isn't wrong, or maybe it's even better in that it makes the connection to you. If you talk about the material world, people think it's, well, somewhere outside there, but it's this very body with which you experience the world. So not only what you see with the eyes and the ears, but also your eyes itself, the ears itself, the whole body, but of course everything outside as well. Everything that has a shape everything that exists somehow in this world is impermanent, but also our perception of the world is impermanent. Our grasping of the concepts that we make of the world and our reaction to that, all of that is impermanent, is empty. Werner, please, yes.
But emptiness, yes, emptiness for me has also this meaning that everything is depending to another thing. Nothing can exist alone. Yeah, and this knowledge, I think we have in the West maybe just since 50, 60 years. When we found out if the insects disappear, the birds disappear, you see, because there is a connection. And so with emptiness, you start to getting a thinking that everything is connected. Yeah, nothing can exist alone. I cannot exist alone. Yeah, and a Zen master can only be a Zen master when he has pupils, students. When he has no students, no Zen master. So Zen master can be thankful that they have students. Okay, that's all.
Yeah, of course, yes. That's why you could also say completeness for emptiness, because, well, everything is a manifestation of the whole universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the comment. I think you grasp it now. Yeah, because things cannot be separated because you're all interrelated. The things is one thing, so only or completely, whatever you can call. Then the forms that we assign names, categorize things, interpret things, then yeah, empty in that sense, and empty is everything, every object. Yeah, makes sense. Thank you anyway. Sorry to interrupt you.
Eugene is raising his hand. Eugene, please.
Thank you, Moha. You were telling just several minutes ago, and I often met this same statement in Kodosawaki Roshi's To You in this book. Kodosawaki precisely emphasizes on the fact, in many places, if I'm not mistaken, that you just stated that our body and our basically you should and you have no other way of practicing Zen other than practice it with your body. He emphasizes this in many places, and he states this to be a really important fact. And on the one hand, I kind of understand what he means, but from the intellectual point of view, it's a bit confusing, because when you stretch this idea a little bit further, it leads you to the impression and to the conclusion, like there is no such thing as a soul, as the soul, as something that, no such thing as consciousness basically at all, because it's all being defined only by the body itself. So I mean, this statement, it as if it means like we are just the body, and when the body disappears, it leads you to the logical conclusion that when the body disappears, then basically that's it, right? I know that this question might sound like very primitive, so to say, because this is this very old dichotomy between if the mind is on the first place or the body on the first place, right? But I wanted you to elaborate on this statement of Kodosawaki Roshi about you're practicing with your body. It like leads you to the conclusion that there is nothing except for the body. The body is all that exists, and there is no such thing as mind separately from the body. So it all starts with the body, it ends with the body as well. So there is nothing else except for the physical world. I just thought maybe you can elaborate on this a little bit. Maybe I have wrong understanding of this. I don't really understand the fullest.
I think the reason why Sawaki Roshi emphasizes the physical aspect of practice so much is because, I don't know about the time of Dogen, but especially in the modern age, if you ask somebody, well, who are you really, the body or the mind? Probably the tendency would be, well, of course the mind. Of course, I need the body to survive, but the real me is the mind. And also when people study Buddhism, a lot of people think that intellectual understanding is enough, and it's less about practicing it physically in daily life. It's about what you have understood. So also, usually what people think of as Satori, it's some experience that you have in the mind. Satori is not something that you have in the body somewhere. It's something in the mind. And when you have Satori, well, what you do with the body is kind of, how do you say? It's not so important. So I think Sawaki Roshi wants to turn that perception upside down. Forget about this ideas that you have in your mind. Forget about your understanding. This is the kind of Shariputra approach. I want to understand it here. It's all in my mind. I got Satori in my mind. Who cares about what I do with my body? Turn it upside down. Of course, I don't think that Sawaki Roshi says that our brain states determined our mind or something like that. I don't think that that's what he busies himself with. It's more like, well, what comes before your mind is what you do with your body, and what comes after Satori, what comes after Zazen, is how you live through this body, how you interact with this body.
So you can put it in a way that you can say that your body basically is the only thing that you can really check if anything is real or no. I mean, the feelings, the pain that you suffer is the only way to tell if you're experiencing reality or you're experiencing the hallucination of any sort. The body is the only source for your mind to understand if that's true or no. I mean, you cannot, for example, lie to yourself. If you feel pain, you cannot convince yourself that you do not feel pain. It's still going to persist. It doesn't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe would this statement be true in this case, if that makes any sense?
I'm not sure if I understand the statement. I mean, if you feel pain, do you feel it with the body or do you feel it with the mind?
I think in this case, I mean, with your body, yes. So, I mean, can you say that the body in this case is the ultimate tool for us to feel what is real and what is not real? Because your body cannot lie to you. It feels what it feels, and you cannot make these things up, so to say. So if you need to make a reality check, you always check it. You always check it with your body, so to say, because in your mind you can tell yourself that you're feeling emotionally good, or you can convince yourself that you feel emotionally bad. But in case if you touch the hot teapot, for example, you're sure that you're going to feel the pain, and there's no way for your mind to lie yourself about this. So like the body is an ultimate way to check the reality. So that's the usefulness of the body. Oh man, I think I got lost in my own speculations. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Moko, for your explanation. I think that I just need to formulate the question more precisely.
Well,
Still in
one
process.
thing that came to my mind when you were talking about the body being a useful tool. And I think it's exactly this perception of our body being a useful tool for ourselves that Savaki Roshi wants to put upside down. Why do you say your body is a tool? Maybe your mind is the tool for the body. Or maybe they're working together. But we've been thinking of our body as a useful tool for so long that Savaki Roshi makes this shift. Well, he doesn't say that the body is more important, but I think it's about you should stop to think about your body just simply as a useful tool. Your body is just as good a part of yourself as your mind.
It means yeah, sorry.
And I think that's something that you wanted to hint at as well. With the mind, you can always fool yourself. You can always fool yourself pretending to be enlightened. Or, for example, 30 minutes of Zazen, you can tell yourself, I didn't have any thoughts. I was completely quiet. But the body is honest. If you don't sit straight, you can't pretend that you were sitting straight because, well, the body is there, obviously. So the body is much more honest. And if we say we practice with the mind, everybody can say, well, I'm practicing in my mind. I like Savaki Roshi, it makes this joke that, well, some people, they shave their heads in their mind. They let their whole hair grow, monks, but if you tell them, how can you let your hair grow? Well, I'm shaving it every day in my mind. And in that way, you can say, I'm practicing in my mind. What's that? But physical practice, you can't fool anybody about that, and you can't fool yourself about that. So the body is much more honest. But Julian was also raising his hand. Julian, please.
I think you just made my point, but I was going to say again from my bodywork therapy practice that the body cannot lie. You know,
Yes.
so with clients, so often what I'm trying to do is get people to be in their body. I think Morrissey, for all his faults, said it best. Does the body rule the mind, or does the mind rule the body? I don't know. He sang.
Yeah.
I think you should rest your voice as well. That's kind of
Yeah.
always bring Morrissey into it.
Yeah, I love that song as well. Yeah. Any other questions or anything else that you would like to to share today? If not, next week I'm gonna get back to Savaki Roshi's To You. I hope that my voice will recover until then. Well, I'm sure it will recover in a week. So thank you for joining. Have a nice week. See you next week, same time, same address. And thank you for Shwan-san for hosting us here. See you.
Thanks, Miho. Get better soon.